Lieutenant, hey, how'd it go?
Cakewalk.
Evan, are you okay?
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah. Day work's done. We'll make the bus tomorrow.
Great.
We don't even look buzzed, Lieutenant.
Iron will, I guess. Lightweight. You're in charge, Carson.
Okay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Fluffenbusters. My name is Adam White. I hope you're doing well. Now, at the time of this recording, it's been just over a week since the 2026 Oscars. And as part of their In Memoriam segment, you know, the segment where Hollywood celebrates the talents that left us in the past year, they featured Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa. Now, they could have used a recent picture of him, that of an older, almost avuncular man, an elder statesman, both of Asian Hollywood and Hollywood in general, who was still working on top-tier projects until a few years back. When news of his passing first hit social media at the end of last year, many fans posted pictures of themselves meeting the kind and gracious Tagawa over the last couple of decades, and he always seemed happy to help, happy to offer some advice, and maybe uttered a few familiar phrases for his fans. But, like the Academy itself, the main image used to remember him wasn't that from a recent appearance. It wasn't from the slew of big-budget films or art house shows that he was a part of. It wasn't even from The Last Emperor, which itself won 8 Oscars in its year. Oh no, the image used to remember this man was from a modestly budgeted film from 1995. A film whose final product was absolutely detested by its studio's own boss. It was based on a computer game so controversial it caused protests in the House of Congress, and it was being made in the shadow of one of the biggest box office disasters ever, Super Mario Bros. It was a film whose biggest star, its genuine superstar, left before shooting a single frame, while other actors didn't make the movie for far more tragic reasons. Add in a green director who bluffed his way into the position in the first place, and this feels like the perfect setup for a disaster. And yet here we are, 30 years later, and this film is beloved by fans of a franchise which itself has taken a hell of a lot of punches, and yet somehow still manages to get back up. And while Cary will always be celebrated for a film and a role that defined his career, Hollywood is now waiting on bated breath to see if the next film entry in the franchise will hit home. The character that Cary played was Shang Tsung, and the film was 1995's Mortal Kombat. And joining me to chat through this film, well, he's a podcaster who was part of the old All House community that formed the basis for both the Fluffenhammer and this very channel. He's a Twitch streamer whose daily shows have been a huge benefit to me personally during the last few years. And he's also an ex-wrestler who's one of the few people that you will ever hear from who knows what it's truly like to trade blows with an opponent in front of a crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. ArcadiaWildBill. How are you doing, sir?
Hello there. I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Good to hear. You see, I've been perfecting my Paul Heyman hype build-up.
Yeah, man. I'm hyped for myself thanks to your award-winning ways. I'm going to mention that every time I see you in Twitch on the chat anytime because you deserve it. Clap, clap, clap. And all the usual wrestling chants that go along with things being deserved when you do well.
There are a lot of chants. I will be asking you about these later on, by the way. But before we start, mate, there's 2 things I'd like to go through. Firstly, I know this sounds odd. Normally in streams like this, it's right at the very end where people say, hey, tell us about where we can find you. Tell us where people can see you. One of the reasons I wanted to get you on this show is because I really wanted people to hear from you, about you, and also to hear about your stream, because it really is a very nice place to tune into, to relax, especially during the day. So would you mind just saying a little bit about your stream, what you do, just so that people can follow you? And I'll stick something up as well on the screen for YouTube.
No, that's fine. I'll give them their usual raid message. I've just looked at my camera instinctively saying raid message. Yeah, I'm ArcadiaWildBill. I am a absent-minded, happy little variety streamer from the northwest of England. I play any game I can that my PC will handle, and always have a laugh doing it, and love talking to my community, and just generally trying to put a bit of positivity out in a very, very dark world that seems to be growing darker every day. But as long as there's a light shining, there's hope.
Lovely. And I will put the link to Billy's Twitch stream in the show notes, but please follow him. It's something that will be a benefit to you. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing before we start as well is that I just wanted to find out from you, because we're going to have so many facts to go through during this film. There's so much to talk about. It is a film that has impacts across Hollywood, even though it wasn't a necessarily huge film at the time. But would you mind just telling me, how did you first come into contact with Mortal Kombat? What was the situation? And also as well, sort of, were you a gamer at the time?
I was a huge gamer at the time. I had my Sega Mega Drive at home, which was a massive leap from what I had before, which was the 128k memory ZX Spectrum from good old Sinclair. And yeah, the jumping graphics from the Sinclair clicks and beeps if you're lucky in a game for a soundtrack to the Mega Drive, its 16-bit graphics was absolutely glorious. I didn't own Mortal Kombat in those days. I had a very protective mum, and I was the baby of my family, so there was no chance I was getting bought a game that's about dismembering people and showing lots of blood. Which is why I always got my dad, if I was in town with him, I would say, "Oh, Dad, can you just pick this up for me? There's the money for it. I'm just going to go and see if they've got this in. Because you need to get games from this counter in the Virgin Mega Store. And the CDs are held elsewhere. I'm just going to go see if there's a CD. That way, it cuts on time in the store and we can get out." And he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." So he'd take it and pay for it. Because he didn't know what it was. He didn't know what I was playing. So he would buy it with my money. I'd buy whatever CD I'd gone into Virgin to get that day. And I was a happy bunny.
Now, to put some context as well for people listening at home, the reason that your mother was so worried about this game is that not only was it a real step up in terms of graphic violence, it was Narc that was the first game that used digitized characters and graphic violence. That would then turn into Smash TV. That was the next one. I think it was Midway that were doing this at the time. And Smash TV was the first to have genuine fountains of blood. But when Mortal Kombat came on the scene, it was such a huge step up in terms of violence. And at that point, arcades had been quite a safe area. Admittedly, there were issues with people spending all their money in the machines, and it was as monetized as any mobile phone is nowadays. But the fact was that the graphics were still kid-friendly, whereas with Mortal Kombat, it was a very different type of feel, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, because jumping up to Mortal Kombat, we'd had sort of the likes of Yi Kung Fu as a fighting game. We'd had the original Street Fighter, which the arcade machine for that was absolutely glorious. It had a pressure-sensitive button for punch and a pressure-sensitive button for kick.
Oh, wow.
The harder you hit them, the harder you would attack. I only ever got to play it once in Blackpool in an arcade, and I was so enthralled by it, I lost my mum and dad. But another reason my mum was probably overprotective of me as a child. But yeah, the jump from that to just a Street Fighter 2, which is my all-time favourite fighting game, and then the jump from Street Fighter 2 to Mortal Kombat was amazing, because even though it was digitized sort of art on the screen, you could tell these are real people they've captured the movements of. And it's like you're controlling a real person to fight with. The first time I played it, I was on holiday in Skegness with my grandma, and they had a Mortal Kombat game, and I was stood watching a guy play it, and he said, "Do you want to have a go?" And I was like, "Okay, how much is it?" He was like, "I've got extra credits in, just push the start button and you can do whatever you want." So I pushed start, I went through, chose Raiden as my first character because I thought he looked really cool.
Nice.
And I was like, "How do you do special attacks?" Because obviously, different characters, different methods of doing specials. I was used to Street Fighter with the quarter circle forward and punch for a fireball. I tried that, it didn't do anything. So I was like, "Oh, is it going to be like Guile where you've got to charge everything up?" He's like, "No, you just do it quickly, backward, forward, then punch, and he'll do a shoot across the screen." So he did that, and we had like a fight on it. He absolutely trounced me. I'm not going to claim to be some sort of savant in video gaming from a young age. And then, because I was so hyped after the fight, because it looked so good on the screen in the arcade, I instinctively hit continue and used another one of his credits. and had another fight against him, and then I gave him 50p to put a credit back in the machine because But he said I could play once, and I played twice. So I thought I owe this man.
Just to put this into context as well, in 1993, when this came out, in arcades, this game made more money in the United States than Jurassic Park, that came out in the cinemas this year, made in cinemas in the United States. That's how big this game was, folks. It was huge. And Billy, as well, you mentioned as well the idea of standing and watching somebody playing a game, which is something that I think you do see in a couple of films. Mostly Tron is the one I remember it from. But it used to be the case as well that in arcades, they were the place you went to show off your gaming prowess.
It was a Butlins holiday camp. Other holiday camps are available. We used to go up to Ayr every year, and this one year we went down to Skegness. In fact, no, it was Pontins we were at because it was in Skegness. Because it's the only time we've ever been to Pontins, and Mortal Kombat was there. So my head says it's destiny that I experienced Mortal Kombat there. And yeah, like. It was on an afternoon, so there wasn't really many people in the arcade because they'd all be doing the activities. That's the word I'm looking for. Well done, that man. And yeah, but I was like, I don't want to do any of that. I want to go play games. And so yeah, I was just stood and just watching. But it genuinely felt like that was a big thing, watching people play arcade games at that point, because nothing could rival an arcade game without sort of selling body parts to cover the cost of a Neo Geo or something.
And it was also, as well, it was this big group activity. Everyone would go down there. Even if you didn't have money to play a game yourself, you could watch the game being played. Very much like a sport. I mean, let's face it, we do have esports nowadays, but this was far more intimate because it might be literally you just stood over somebody's shoulder watching them play. And if you were on a machine and people started standing by you and watching you play, you actually felt quite blessed. You felt, wow, I must be doing really well. Either that or they're desperate to get on the machine and they're just really annoyed. Yeah. But it was a mark of respect that people would stand around you. And when you got beaten, you would get the forerunner to just saying GG to somebody online nowadays. You would get the well done, and then people would wander off and go to the next person. Cool. Yeah.
I mean, when another year when we went to a little private, not a sort of franchise holiday camp in Whitley Bay in the northeast of England, there was a Street Fighter 2 machine, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and I went through the entire game and beat it with Ryu, and I had a swarm of people around me watching, and I had credits left on it. It was like, anybody want to fight? So people were coming up and using my credits because happy to, because I'd finished the game, so I wanted to fight people. And I spent the afternoon just fighting people on that game and didn't lose a single match. That's like, to this point of my life, that has been the best gaming memory and best moment in Billy's gaming history. Like, I don't think I'll ever beat that. I've beat Elden Ring, I've beat Dark Souls, but the fact nobody could take me out on Street Fighter 2 Turbo in an arcade was a big thing for me.
I hope that people listening as well will maybe get a feel for what Billy's talking about, especially those of a younger generation who are listening in, because there is a slight disconnect between what you imagine or what you see arcades as nowadays and the arcades back then. And they were still trying to get your money, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think anything else. The whole idea of a computer game back then was an experience 20p at a time or 50p at a time. Every time you played a game, you need the game makers needed you to have as much of an experience as you could get, but also as well fight back and try and kick you off the machine so you lose the game so they can get you to play again. It was a very unique mechanic. I mean, again, it shows up a lot in mobile games nowadays, but it feels far more targeted nowadays, and there's far less of an experience that you get for it. Now, I realize as well this has been a very, very long intro. Far longer than I would normally do. And as I'm the guy, as I think people know, who edits all the images for these intros, I'm the one who's giving myself extra work. However, I really wanted to hear that from you, Billy.
Always happy to talk about gaming memories. Yeah.
But the nice thing as well, listening to this, if anyone at home, before we start the film, if anyone has got a suggestion for another computer game adaptation that we should maybe take a look at, maybe you want Street Fighter, maybe you want the sequel to this film, maybe you have a twisted mind, let us know in the comments. It would do us a great favor as well. Any comments always help the algorithm. You know how it goes. Right, for folks at home, we are going to start the film from just the very start of the New Line logo for obvious reasons. Are you ready, Billy?
I certainly am.
Right, so I'll just go 3, 2, 1, click. So
Yep.
3, 2, 1, click. If you really want to start a film and show that you're making a film for the fans, then you need to take note of this, because before the New Line logo has even left the screen, you've had the famous Mortal Kombat yell by Kyle Wyatt, a guy who's made a career out of being the extra person in Mortal Kombat. And you have this glorious intro symbol sequence. It's beautiful.
It's like, because obviously in the original game, it didn't have this theme in. It had a very atmospheric, sort of slow, chugging along theme.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, that's quite sinister. That's really good. But then this launched, and there's that yell of Mortal Kombat that you had in the adverts for the game back then. And, it's just, like, there's literal goosebumps on my arm, no word of a lie right now. And I watched this 2 days ago.
This song was made by one guy on an Atari ST computer. Can you believe that?
Massively underrated piece of equipment, the Atari. It was capable of so much more than what people thought, because everybody saw it as a gaming thing. But I had a friend who was into computers before computers were a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his Atari and he had his Amigas, and he would just sit and program BASIC into it as an entertainment for himself. And like, it showed me things like, how do you do this? And he was like, you can do it on the Spectrum. You can program BASIC on the Spectrum. I'm like, can you? And he was like, yeah, do this when you get home, and scribbled some stuff on a piece of paper, gave it to me. He was like, type that in, line for line, and then push run. And I was like, okay, I did it. And it just made like random stuff appear, and I was like, how does he know how to do this?
Brilliant. Looking at Kerry on the screen, this opening sequence, and also Liu Kang is currently waking up in a green car park, which I've never quite understood. But the thing about Kerry in this film is that apart from this opening action scene, which is a very quick moment, a quick flashback, adds value because it's in a nice location. But Kerry will spend a large chunk of this film moving very slowly, very much in control. There are a lot of nice visual touches to this film, which you wouldn't expect in a film that is meant to be kind of a cheeky, cheesy computer game adaptation. But at the same time, there is a lot of care put into it as well.
It also shows like how menacing he is, because it's very calm, it's very collected. He isn't like shouting "hiya" as he punches them. Throws punches. Oh, there's my boys, homegrown talent, Napalm Death, playing music. Love me a bit of Napalm Death.
Was that Napalm Death? I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, twist the knife slowly. Because there's that, and then there's Fear Factory a little later on. I can't remember the name of the song.
They've got Sonya and Jax in this opening sequence. Both of the actors came to this film very, very late indeed. Unfortunately, the original actor who was going to play Jax passed away in pre-production. And Bridget, well, we'll talk about Bridget later on, but she's somebody who really did have to step in at the last minute. But I do want to answer a little urban myth about Trevor Goddard here, who's playing Kano, because he's a London guy, and he's using a London with a little bit of sort of mock Cockney thrown in. The problem is, the producers then, when they saw the film, they thought, oh, he sounds Australian. And as soon as you hear that and then you listen to Trevor, you go, oh, he is Australian. But he's not. He's just London. He lent into it, though. After this, he actually pretended to be an Australian and worked for the rest of his career as a fake Australian. The irony of his career, though, is that arguably his biggest role was on the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And he passed away, I think it was during the final parts of production or post-production. And so Trevor actually gets multiple shouts-outs on the commentary for Pirates of the Caribbean by both the director and Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Because he passed away. But yeah, I mean, like most of the other cast here as well, they had really, really good careers. This film had a positive effect for most of the people that starred in it.
Oh, what an entrance.
As we see our main guy.
He's a massively underrated actor, I think, Lyndon Ashby. I think he's great.
Yep.
Everything I've seen him in, he's been fantastic in. But yeah, he's
got a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
And this as well, this is really slickly shot. People that look at later parts of the film and go, oh, it's just cheesy lighting and this and that. Look at this. This is like a Michael Mann film. It's slick, it's well done. And also, because Lyndon was one of the few main cast members who was proficient in martial arts, they made sure to really give the audience a fight. Yes, it's slick, there's no blood, it's not that serious, but he can do almost everything apart from a sweeping kick, which I don't think anyone in the cast can do. But it is good. He's so tired. The whole history of this character is obviously tied into Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
I will say, by the way, very quickly, I'm sure most people know this, but this cameo of the director was meant to be Steven Spielberg. He was a big fan of the game. What I love about that shot, though, is that the two other people on the crane are clearly members of the crew. They clearly don't give a damn. They're clearly bored of being up on the crane, and they're like, can we get this over with? Meanwhile, you have all the cliches of a fake film set. The lights aren't on. Nothing is facing the wrong way. You have mystery smoke off to one side for no reason whatsoever. It looks like a light is on fire. It's hilarious.
Like when I first saw this, I genuinely thought it was like Steven Spielberg, and then you look back, it's like maybe if they ordered him off Temu, it is.
He had a scheduling conflict. He just couldn't make it, and yet he played a very similar cameo in Austin Powers only a few years later.
Yeah, was it number 3? He popped up in the opening credits.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because he says the music needs mojo, and he's got his Oscar, and he goes, I think my friend here would say otherwise. I haven't watched that in ages. I really enjoyed that when it first came out, Gold Member.
This, I don't know how much truth there is in this, but apparently, and this is very odd timing considering the news we heard the other day, but the producers were originally looking to have someone like Chuck Norris play this particular role as the agent, so it would be a cameo to real fighters. And although they did use an action actor, it would have been lovely if they'd included somebody like Chuck, just to give that extra authenticity.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he was trained by this guy who's played by Chuck Norris. Your head immediately goes, he was trained by Chuck Norris.
That would be so good.
I wonder if he has a secret fist hidden under his beard. But no, Chuck Norris didn't die. He just completed life.
It's true. The producers wanted to obviously keep costs down to a minimum, and so they were very much against the idea of going to foreign locations. But the director insisted on going to these places, even though it meant a really lightweight crew. This crane shot, I still don't know how they got the equipment to the location, because most of the other stuff around here is, you'll see, it's handheld, it's very light, it's using available light wherever possible, a few bounce boards, very, very simple. And Robin Shue, I urge you, if you ever look up, there's videos on YouTube that say, what happened to the actors from this film? Now, Robin Shue is a perfect example of somebody that has enjoyed success, reached a certain point, and then stepped away for the good of his family.
Yeah.
However, because he was so proficient, and because he took over certain roles, even on this film, he took over a lot of the fight coordination. There are one or two people in Hollywood who kind of talk bad about him purely because he chose his family over his career. He chose his personal, physical, and mental well-being over the business. And it's a shame that people do that. But honestly, he seems, from everything I've seen about fan interactions, he seems like one of the most lovely people. And I saw a picture of him from 2-3 years ago. And my goodness, he looks so good for his age.
Yeah,
It's embarrassing.
it's the martial arts and keeping fit. It does wonders. But yeah, I mean, like, people are the same about Rick Moranis, who stepped away to look after his wife. They're like, oh, why didn't he just make film? He could just come and make one film. Why wasn't he in the new Ghostbusters? Like, he doesn't want to be in Hollywood. He wants to be with his family and live a happy, peaceful life. Let him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we have the emergence of one of the more interesting cast choices.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to go for Raiden, which would you choose? Danny Glover, Sean Connery, or Christophe Lambert? Because believe me, folks, they were all genuine choices. You could have had Danny Glover as Raiden, which I think is brilliant.
But I mean, Sean Connery can play any race amazingly. I mean, look, he was Russian with a Scottish accent in Hunt for Red October.
True.
He was
Spanish
Egyptian in
oh god, yeah,
by Highlander, consort to the Spanish king. The man had range. You'd never tell it was anything but the character he was playing.
The irony here is that Sean Connery didn't want to take on the role because he didn't want the action involved in such a role. Even though, honestly, the action that Lambert will do in a second is so minor. If he was sat down, you swear it was Steven Seagal. It's that level of weird martial arts. But the thing that really strikes me is that by this point, Christophe Lambert had done 3 Highlander films. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that prowess. That's Robin Shue just doing a somersault and landing on his back.
I was going to say, speaking as a wrestler, that's all Robin Shue, and Christopher Lambert has just moved his arms a bit. But thank you very much. You've just put the image of Steven Seagal as Lord Raiden, and that really would be terrible. I didn't mind his movies growing up, but he takes himself far too seriously.
He does, yeah. By the way, Steven Seagal was also approached for what would become Mortal Kombat, the game. He was one of 2. It was him and Jean-Claude Van Damme. And it was only, and also as well, there was no real beef from Jean-Claude Van Damme about this game. It's just he didn't understand it and he had scheduling things. This was all in the build-up to Universal Soldier as well. And although it's been said a few times that, Johnny Cage is them having a dig at Van Damme being a washed-up actor, no, when they made this, and even when this was released, Van Damme was still heading towards his peak. It's just that when they went ahead with the game and they really, the makers saw what they were doing, and this went from a filler game to suddenly a mainline game. They were like, look, take whatever characters you want. If you're taking them from films, fine, but twist them, make them different, make them your own, which is why you have Big Trouble in Little China here. You have Mythologies here. You have other fighting games here. And yes, you have Jean-Claude Van Damme, and it's all twisted. But it really is its own thing, its own lore.
Yeah, I mean, well, Van Damme was approached for this, but turned it down to make Street Fighter, which I'm sure he enjoyed more with his extracurriculars while filming that, but I think it would have leaned a bit better for him if he'd made this one.
Yeah, I
career-wise.
Then again, Hollywood at the time was really chewing up and spitting out a lot of young talent. I mean, it's a merciless industry. And anyone, and please as well, ladies and gentlemen, if you see anyone in this film, even if it's an extra, if they've managed to make it into a film, they've done well. They've done better than 99% of other people in the industry. Lyndon Ashby here has done a great job. He's got a career. He's still beloved by fans. He has done more than 99.99% of actors will ever do. It's just the realities, unfortunately, of Hollywood.
Yeah, it was a bit of a dark time for Hollywood. The amount of movies you see in the 90s where they'd put a lot of effort in and then just the cast would never be heard from again, almost. Yeah. And there's a few that slipped through and managed to do something for themselves and make something for themselves, despite Hollywood being like, no.
It's true. I do as well. Just jumping back very quickly to Lambert, who will pop up in a moment. But at the time of filming this, Lambert had already done Highlander 1, 2, and 3. I think 3 was in post production. And what amazes me is that he looks younger here, admittedly with a white wig, than he does in Highlander 2, when part of the entire plot is that he gets re-energized back to his prime 10 minutes into the movie. And it does make me think, it's like they clearly treated him well because he looks so happy. I mean, there's a lot of improv because the script wasn't finalized and they let him, and I think it was Lyndon as well, improv a lot of their lines. So that's why there's a lot of humor. That's why Lambert makes these little jokes and grins and nods to the camera. He's having fun.
Yeah.
But that's a great way to make your cast feel valued, isn't it?
It is. And like, tell me a film that swept the board at the Oscars, and I'll be like, I might watch it later. Tell me there's a cheesy film that's terrible, but the cast look like they had so much fun making it. I will sit and I'll watch that film 30 or 40 times.
Yeah. And we're what, 15 minutes in? We're already on our way to the location. We're already on the way to the fight. We've got this wonderful boat, which must have been a hell of a lot in terms of cash to put together. Beautiful setup, and yet we're already there. We're sold into the idea. The filmmakers have done their hard work, and in fact, in terms of things like cinematography, I love the framing of scenes like this. As soon as you're out of the real world, as soon as they can control the environment, the lighting on this is really, really nice. And this is where Kerry comes into his own, because he's basically prowling here. He's seducing here.
Just visually, he walks out of the shadows.
Yeah.
It's like it all just adds a mystique to the character, which is something you don't really get now when you watch a film.
Or the luxury of patience when it comes to building a character. And he clearly doesn't. He's just unfazed by everything. Now, Billy, can you please tell me, as somebody who played Mortal Kombat when it first came out, how big were these two characters back then? Because now they seem to have almost a dictionary's worth of lore behind each of them.
So yeah, well, before we do, can I just say,
yeah, come on.
This film had additional ADR done for it.
Okay.
So they originally just walked out and done all the posing and things, but they had to add the clip of Kerry back in there saying deadliest of enemies, slaves under my power, because they showed it for test audiences, and the test audiences went, they're meant to be like big rivals, like blood feud.
Wow.
They wouldn't just be friendly. So they actually went back and fixed that, which is an amazing touch. It's a +1 for test audiences. As much as they can break things, they can also make things great. But yeah, Scorpion and Sub-Zero were huge. They were kind of, considering Liu Kang's the big human person from the game, the fact that it's two of the Sub-Zero's from the Lin Kuei ninja tribe. I can't remember the name of Scorpion's one. Like, those are like essentially the mascots for it.
Yeah.
Scorpion took on almost a meme energy going forward from the game.
Okay.
And he was in lots of other things as like, look, this is Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. And the old Games Workshop shop in my hometown, Carlisle, when I was a kid, had a signing by Sub-Zero. It wasn't Sub-Zero, it was some dude in the suit, but
no,
Sub-Zero was in there at the back signing posters.
Did he give you a little ice cube as a going away present?
No, it was just the signature on a poster, but it was great because they had all the Citadel and Games Workshop collectibles at the back of the stop and the back of the shop, and they had video games at the front, so it was kind of split in two. It was a narrow shop, just a long narrow shop, and it was just so many afternoons spent in there because it was one of the only places to buy computer games, and it was locally run as well. This is sort of, like I say, 92, 93 sort of time. So it'll have been 9, maybe 10.
Yeah.
At best. So, yeah. But it was like, oh, it's Sub-Zero. It's real Sub-Zero's there. Like, the guy who played him in the game. It wasn't. But to Kid Billy, it was.
I tell you what, it would be hilarious if somebody went up to one of the real actors in either the games or the movies at a Comic-Con with a poster and go, "Can you sign this?" And he goes to sign it and he sees another signature there and he goes,
Right.
"What's this other signature?" And you go, "Oh, that was the real Sub-Zero. I know you only played him, but this is the real one. He turned up in Carlisle that time."
He turned up in some city in the north of Carlisle. 3 people have heard of, 2 of which will admit they lived there. And he just happened to come to our city. I mean, it could have been like Kenneth from the bingo hall, for all we know. You know what I mean? It could have been anybody in that, but to us, Sub-Zero was in our hometown.
I've got to ask this now because I know we could talk through this film about the film and we'll never get to any other subjects. And I really wanted to ask you this, but very quickly, you mentioned Carlisle, obviously, and that seems to be the forming place where you met people who would sort of create the oil house and what would become the Fluffenhammer. How did you know Adam and the other guys?
I knew Grufflock Adam through heavy metal and heavy drinking. So Carlisle's the main big city for Cumbria. So they would come from the west coast into Carlisle for nights out, and we had a nightclub, the Twisted Wheel, which is sorely missed to this day by a lot of people, but wouldn't be worth reopening because nightlife isn't a thing in Carlisle anymore, apparently.
Yep.
But yeah, I met Adam at a nightclub. We were both dancing to H Block X cover of The Power by Snap, and both raised our hands aloft at the same time when they said, "I've got the power," like Prince Adam from Master of the Universe. And
That was
I
it.
mean, that's it. Friendship started, and it's gone on from there. We had many adventures together and just doing silly. Everybody else I kind of met through Adam. Ross was friends with Adam, Dead Draven, again from the West Coast, and they used to come into Carlisle for nights out. And then he knew Gary, who he worked with, but for a while I DJ'd in the Wheel as a young adult. And Gary used to come out to the rock nights. The first time I spoke to Gary, I knew who he was, because you see somebody, you know them because they're regulars. But the first time I met Gary and Risen, he was dressed as Frankenfurter for Halloween. And I was like, that is amazing. You need to do that more, because that's absolutely class. Yeah, so that was my meeting with the core elements of what we called the old arcade, or Oiley's old arcade.
And what was the idea as well behind sort of creating the oil house, and what was the whole idea as well behind you getting into podcasting or creating content online?
Yeah, so Grufflock has this weird sixth sense when it comes to things. He will see something that's starting to take form and he'll go, "I'm going to do that," and he will take it and he will run with it. And he started the Oiley's old oil excuse me, Oiley's old oil house with Stu and Rob, Dark Aegis and Chaos Envy. They invited me on a few times. I didn't know much about Transformers. I knew about the old things, nothing of the new things. And they were talking about toys and things like that. But occasionally they'd do a spotlight on something different. So they got me in to talk about Thundercats, because the new Thundercats had just launched.
Yep.
And then we did a quick change the channel, which was kind of like this, but watching terrible films that are actually terrible but fun. Because they did quick change the channel, because the first one they did was Street Fighter the movie, and it has the greatest joke in film history of the truck barreling towards the tent and Zangief saying, "Quick, change the channel," because that's going to save them. But yeah, they got me in on that, and then one day I just got a random message off Grufflock saying, "You still play your retro games? Are you still into your retro gaming?" And I was like, "Kinda, yeah, I don't do it as much because I don't have room to set things up." And he just went, "Thinking of doing a podcast." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "I want to do a retro gaming podcast. You up for it?" I was like, "Absolutely. Just tell me where and when, and I'll come and talk." And that was it. The old arcade was started up.
I I wanted to get that across to people, and I know people as well. There will be people listening to this go, "Why aren't you talking about more about the film?" But the fact is, if you're listening to this channel, you're listening to the product of a group of people that formed a community. Some of those people will still work together today. I mean, the Fluffenhammer comes from that Transformer community background, but also friends that know each other in the real world. And a lot of those a lot of those shows are still produced today with the idea that, oh, I've got this project. I think my friend would like to get on this. And it's the way that you build up these things. And people do ask us as well, oh, how do I podcast? How do I get on this? How do I do that? It's simple. You get to know these people. And after a while, you then build up those relationships and it becomes like an informal chat. Doing this is the most natural thing that I can do. I'm not doing a show. I'm chatting with Billy about a very cool film. It's great. So anyone out there who's interested, get involved. Meanwhile, by the way, we're seeing Reptile, who looks like a PS2 digital character. Very weird.
But at the time, that was amazing.
That's it as well. The concept at the time, a lot of these things were they cutting edge effects, or they were at least advanced effects, right?
The buildings definitely were, because I mean, it's a different time now. You've got high definition screens, with high definition Blu-rays or HD DVDs if you back the wrong horse. But at the time, watching these through a sort of a 21-inch CRT TV, it looked amazing. There's something lost. The better the quality of film, or digital film essentially, we've got, a lot worse things have started to look. People pick apart CGI in films, but I remember where it started and how it looked, and I think it looks bad there, but look at where it's come from. Apart from the Flash from 2024, that's just no.
Well, have we gotten to a point where we see too much behind the scenes, but also when it comes to films and filmmakers, the effects teams are pushed often to do projects to bid too low, to offer to make effects for less than they can afford. They crunch people to hell, just like computer games, and then you end up with a substandard product on release. It feels as though a lot of the craft of films has been lost, and it's slightly ironic that we then look at a film like this and go, well, this is where you had really skilled craftsmen. But it really is the case. There's stuff going on here that modern films wouldn't even get near.
Oh, it's like, because of how easy it is to make a movie now, quotation marks around easy, it kills, I feel, a lot of passion. When people were making movies with passion, I want to make this movie, rather than we're going to make this movie and we're going to make some money from it, so let's do it. I mean, you wouldn't get Howard the Duck nowadays. That wouldn't get made. It would get benched and binned before it even saw the slightest hint of daylight.
Yeah.
But I stand by Howard the Duck. It's an enjoyable film. It's not a good film, but it's bad to a point. It's good. It's kitsch. It's campy and silly.
This sequence, they do lots and lots of little things here. So Paul W.S. Anderson, as I mentioned as well, he sort of bluffed his way onto this film. He had done Shopping, which was a good film, like a UK indie film. And the small fight sequence they had there, which was dynamically shot, and him reading a couple of books on FX and sort of bluffing his way through some of the interview process, got him this role. But they're using every little opportunity to sell you the fact that people do know martial arts in this film. They are giving you crowd-pleasing moments, even if it's not including the main cast. And the challenge they have, and this is something that a lot of films fail at nowadays, is this is a game that was known for its graphic humor. Graphic humor and its graphic violence. And yet they've had to make it a PG, I think it was PG-12. So, because they have got some death in here. And they were able to get away with that. There wasn't a huge fan backlash. Whereas nowadays, if you have an 18-rated property, for instance, Predator, and you make a PG-12 film, there'll be a lot of fans that are in uproar because you're not going that extra level of violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's strange because action movies took that trip. Yesterday we watched Terminator and Terminator 2. And then if you think about the jump from Terminator to Terminator 2,
Yeah.
it goes from sort of horror action to an action horror. And then the jump to Terminator 3 is, well, these done well with these characters. Let's put these characters in this, but scale everything back so we can get to a bigger audience.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, 6-year-old Billy in 1990 watching the Terminator on video because it was taped the night before, sort of thing, so I could see it. I mean, I watched Chucky at my nana's with my cousins. I'll have been 8, so my cousins will have been 7 and 4 or 5 maybe. And we're watching Chucky, and we enjoyed it. We laughed at it a lot of the times because it was that absurd. But now, nothing like that happens. You don't. I mean, you do still get kids watching things that are above their age, but a lot of things just get scaled back so that it's safe for people to watch, for kids to watch.
Nice.
I mean, it explains a lot of why I'm like I am, as an adult, I suppose, watching that sort of 18 and 15 certificate films from the 70s and 80s as a young child, but I don't think it did me any harm.
Well, I would argue as well. Watching that kind of content is far healthier than watching a lot of the online content that folks get nowadays. It just feels. It feels that while this had its own flaws, and it did, there was some nasty stuff out there, but it still feels less predatory than a lot of the stuff online. And stuff like this, you've got, again, a crafted scene. It's really well. And I do want to shout out as well, this is the first scene in which we really see Goro. And Goro was this incredible creation. He quite like a huge team to work. He was built by Alec Guinness and Tom Woodruff, who did a lot of stuff that heavily involved in the Alien franchise. I actually want to give a quick shout out, if you don't mind, Billy. A friend of mine does a podcast called the Filmumentaries podcast. He goes and speaks to a lot of these crafters from 80s films, lighting people, sound people, actors, directors, lots of 80s and 90s action. He really is trying to keep the old spirit of those movie magic programs alive. He's got a fantastic podcast, and he talks to Alec Guinness about a lot of the stuff that he's done. And Alec as well is one of those people that has been around long enough to see CGI come and dominate. In fact, he even did the effects for The Thing remake that was famously then when the director went over it with CGI and nobody liked it. So his view on doing this sort of stuff is incredible. I will link the show in the show notes. Anyway, sorry, that aside.
No, it's fine. Just the fact this is all practical. I'd occasionally do a film day with a friend of mine. We will sit with some rum and watch movies all day. I'll take sort of 5 or 6 DVDs or Blu-rays with me. He'll grab 5 or 6 out of his. We're at his house, so he could bring anything down. And we'll sit and we'll watch. But we were watching Project A with Jackie Chan. And Jackie Chan films are amazing, but the fact everything in that film was practical, because when it came out, all the sets, everything, all the stunt work, I love practical effects. To this day, anytime there's practical effects in a movie, I will wholeheartedly think this is going to be amazing.
Yeah,
because it's almost like a lost art, because nobody makes things practically really anymore.
No, it's people with like a couple of ping pong balls on their head or some extra foam. And I know as well there are filmmakers out there who still film that way and still create films with care. But here, like the framing of everything, and because Goro was such a troubled thing to operate, and again, it kept breaking down, it was extremely powerful. Just the way like the guy wearing the rig, it's an incredible weight. And So they went and they did the best thing they could, which is to shoot effectively, shoot carefully. Every frame with Goro in has been considered. The fact that you see him first and it's just his hand, these beautiful little frames, and again, we'll go back to Shang Tsung as well. Calm, methodical, setting this all up. This scene is really well shot. And I know I keep saying that, but in films like this, it's easy to dismiss the whole film as being, it's cheesy. Even though, by the way, there is a very impressive cheese board in this frame, which really distracts me every time I see this.
I want that cheese board at Christmas.
But it's
framing,
really nice.
Sorry.
No, go on.
So, yeah, the framing of Goro, where you said you saw his hand, you see him watching Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya. But the hand you see, it's like, because you can compare it to the size of a human hand, because you're seeing humans, it's like that hand's as big as their heads, even with the sort of perspective distance between the two of them. It looks like it's from a giant creature of some sort. Yeah. And then you see him sat and he's there with his forearms. Oh, it looks so good. Like, absolutely amazing work on the practical effects in this. It's... Like I say, it's something I miss seeing. It's why The Thing is one of my favourite horrors, just for how much they threw into it. It's unrivaled, really.
I think the physical presence means that, yes, you notice there's some jank, and you will notice in this, but at the same time, because it's real and because it's clearly there and because the actor is working around it, you have that sense of... You just believe in it. If you're watching this in the cinema, you believe in it. It's harder with the CG characters, even though they do this very well. It's like a nice, I wouldn't say jump scare, but it's just well done in a small set. But again, this mix of practical and digital effects was very much of its time. You could get away with having both.
Yeah, it's always good when a film blends practical and CGI together well, like Jurassic Park. Like, you can watch that today in high definition and it still looks so beautiful.
That's something that I'm, for folks at home as well, I'm thinking about doing a future project on some of Phil Tippett's other stuff, including his art films, because Phil Tippett was one of those few people who, I think Jurassic Park was a blend of, yes, they had the digital effects to create the creatures, but the actual movement was done by old-fashioned stop-motion people like Phil Tippett. So it's a perfect blend. Oh, look at this lighting. It's just great. And they got so much out of this scene as well. They keep coming back to it, but they use it in different ways.
Yeah. But again, nowadays it would just be stood on a blue screen or a green screen. They built all of this, every last minute detail, every slight carving on the walls. It was there. You could go and you could touch everything, and it looks so glorious. And
for 40K fans, yeah, look at all those candles. Now, admittedly, a lot of the ones in the background are obviously just lit up. Yes, lights. It doesn't matter. It has that 40K aesthetic. It's one of the most... It has sets that are more 40K-like than any other film. They're more 40K-like than Event Horizon, and that amazes me. Oh, and I tell you what, as well, Robin Liu has got some skills on him, hasn't he?
And just to throw it back to wrestling, Sonya with a nice clothesline there to finish the fight.
Yeah, and she's selling it. She does look pretty good on these film sets. I'll talk a little bit about her journey to the film when she has her fight against Kano, but it's lovely to see as well the chemistry between these three. Like, you get the feeling that they actually did have a good time shooting this, which is lovely. And then you have Lambert just sat in the background, just having a ball.
Just chill out on the steps, watch what they can do. But yeah, there is a sense of sort of tension between them, and then it sort of grows into like camaraderie, and this fight sort of brings them together.
And he does have his little... was that ever meant to be a catchphrase? The I don't think so, or
Yeah,
do you think
no,
that
I
was
think it's
something that
just
Lambert just came up with?
feel like it's maybe a catchphrase Lambert tried to bring into it. Sort of, I'm going to give him a little thing he can do. But I do like the fact to cover the fact Raiden isn't fighting in the tournament because he's one of the elder gods, so he can't fight on behalf of Earth because he's got to be impartial.
Actually, that
Like, a
brings up a
really
good
nice touch.
question. So, I believe this is the case, but even the old arcade games, if you just sat and looked at them when they weren't being played, they would actually reel out the lore of the game. Like, even back then, this game has real lore and quite deep. Is that the case?
Yeah, it's huge because when you first play it, obviously you see the screen, you get your title screen, Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
insert coin, press start, and then it'll flick over to from the title card to exposition. The Mortal Kombat determines the fate of a realm. If Outworld wins 12 in a row, it'll get to merge with Earth and take over it. It's won. No, sorry. If it wins 10, it's won 9 so far. So this arcade machine you're playing, this is Earth's last stand against the possibility of an Outworld incursion and merging with ours realm. And then you get character biographies: Liu Kang, Shaolin Monk, what he's in the tournament for, who characters are. It's just because there wasn't any cutscenes back then, you got everything through written exposition.
Okay.
And you would sit and you'd read it, and it would be worth reading because it'd give you knowledge into that game.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of getting a game from a shop and reading the instruction manual when they were a thing.
And that was a big thing, ladies and gentlemen. That was a very, very big thing. I was a serial person for that. In fact, I would never play the game. I'd just read the booklet. Very quickly as well for folks. So this guy is Hakeem Alston. He was actually in a motorcycle accident just before they shot this fight. The fight was originally going to be a regular fight, but because he damaged his hand, and it was quite a visually damaging injury, they didn't want to show his hand too much, so that's why they used bow staffs. So this fight is technically improvised, and they're improvising on sand. It's a great fight. It's fantastic, but it takes a lot of skill.
Yeah.
And since we're watching people fight, I've got to ask, Billy, how does somebody go, oh, I'd like to wrestle, I'd like to fight people in front of other people. How do I do that? How did you get involved in wrestling?
So you start watching wrestling when you're about 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
You don't grow up past that part, and you just stay that childlike wonderment of wrestling. But no, I've watched wrestling since I was a kid, and then I went to one of the live shows for the local wrestling company, Target Wrestling.
Yeah.
They announced they were opening a training school. So I went along to the first session, surprised myself at how well I did, considering it was all physical and super sort of endurance, essentially.
Yeah.
Bunny hopping, sort of squat down and bunny hop across a car park, turn round, bunny hop back, not stand up and turn round, bunny hop to turn round and hop backwards, hop back toward where I'd came from, jog down to a car park, around the car park, back up to where there was a training unit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd done wrestling training before then, I'd done 2 sessions of training over in the northeast, a wrestling company called WZW.
Yeah.
But the cost of getting through was going to be too much, so I stopped going. So I knew how to, what they call bump, like throw myself backwards and land safely, in quotation marks. So yeah, I just started training there, and then it just led to being in the ring, wrestling against people, against the trainers, wrestling against other people in the school. And as we go along, we get into more and more people, sort of established English names. One thing Ross, Deadhead Draven, likes to point out is I've wrestled and beat a guy who has wrestled but been beaten by AJ Styles, Martin Kirby, who is an absolute sweetheart of a bloke. He's a lovely bloke and an absolute staple of British wrestling. And like everything he does well in the ring, he does like well. He knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to sort of control the flow of a match. A ring general, as they call it.
Nice.
But yeah, it was a really fun time. But time's worn on, body's worn down, and other health fun has happened. So I can't go back and wrestle, but I probably could go back and be a fun manager, which I might see if I can go about doing.
I like, by the way, he says I coughed then, not because of what Billy said or because I got something stuck in my throat, but because of Kano's exquisite chest hair, which is coiffed and waxed to perfection. But I did want to say to folks who are watching this film as well, I want a little defense here of Bridget Wilson Sampras, or at the time, Bridget Wilson, before she married tennis legend Pete Sampras. She was never cast as Sonia. She went up to be auditioned and she went through that process, but she decided instead to go off and do Billy Madison. Now, in her place, they hired Cameron Diaz for this role. Cameron Diaz had just filmed The Mask. It had not come out yet. It was in post-production, and she was about to become a megastar. And during the pre-production, she broke her wrist during the fight training. So they went around to a bunch of people, and they went back to Bridget and said, look, can you come onto this film? She finished Billy Madison on one day, flew overnight, and started the next day on this film. And that was the first time that she did any form of martial arts training. Now, she obviously had done fitness training before. You know, she's an actress in Hollywood. She has to look after herself. But when people talk about her fighting in this, she really was struggling to learn everything. And she had the minimum amount of time to do it. And I think for what she does a fantastic job. Just, it's really, really tough and you obviously have some feelings on this as well. The idea that you're acting as though you're fighting, you're play fighting basically. It doesn't mean that you're still not being physical. It's still dangerous. It's still tough. It's like people that say that wrestling is fake. Well, maybe the storylines are and the antagonism is, but you're still doing incredibly physical things that a person would struggle to do once, and you're doing it 15, 20 times in a match.
Yeah, it's anybody who says when I've spoken to people about being a wrestler and they've gone wrestling, you know it's fake, right? I say to them, the only thing fake is the finish, because we know who's going to win. Sometimes you don't, because politics can play into it in the big companies. But yeah, there's just an aura around it. I think because it was protected for so long, and then the truth sort of got realised by a lot of people at the same sort of time. Vince McMahon came out on a show, did a pre-taped vignette called Cure for the Common Show, and said, it's predetermined. We know what's going to happen. But he said, you can't deny that these men are athletic.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of athleticism. Like, I don't think I've been as physically fit since I was in school and doing forced PE as when I was wrestling. And depending who you work with, as it were, depends on how physical that match actually is. I've worked with people where we've just what's called thrown a potato, where the punch is real, the punch lands, but you pull it at the last second so that it just kind of dinks against him. And then I've worked with people where we've just gone full force at each other, but not full force.
Yeah, I know.
One of the trainers liked to work snug, and so he taught us to work snug so that we would show something convincing, and it wouldn't look like we're sort of punching the air and whiffing a throw. So it would land flush, it would make a good sound, but you wouldn't hurt the other guy. But me and him used to just go full force, knocking each other with forearms, because your forearm muscles are a nice cushion when it's not tense. So we'd just lay into each other, and I always liked working snug because it looked a lot more believable. Yeah.
I would say as well, since you're talking about that situation, it was in one of these, I think it was one of these kicks, the guy actually connected with Ashby, and I think he bruised a kidney in this scene. And he said it was one of these. It went between the pads. So when he was talking about the filming, he was like, yeah, we're doing this acting, but it's still incredibly physical. At this point, the filmmakers know that they've got everyone on board. They appreciate the tone. It's going to jump around different sets. So this fight was originally meant to conclude in the orchard. But after they did test screenings, people went, nah, it's not enough. We want more fighting. So they then staged this. And the fact that the filmmakers have got it to the point where people can go from an orchard and suddenly they're in hell. And you have no idea how either of these two is even going to, like, where they are, how they're going to get out, what they're doing, where this is. And yet people are on board. They're just buying in. All that matters is the fight. And it looks really good.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, Scorpion has teleport abilities. He used to be able to teleport off one side of the screen and punch him from the opposite. Yeah. And Ed Boon getting to do the voice for Scorpion as well is a really nice touch. Because, that was the iconic line from Mortal Kombat, because that was the speech that was in it, was just Scorpion shouting, "Get over here," or "Come here," and Liu Kang with his Bruce Lee noises as he kicked and punched in the game.
Oh, there's one little thing on screen that I thought I would clear up as well. Brandon Lee was never considered for the original Johnny Cage. People have sort of romanticized the idea that he might have considered it, but he was they never even thought to ask him. So let's just put that to bed. I love the idea, though, that this is a fantastic, really sneaky way the filmmakers getting around the rating system. If Scorpion had had his human face, then Johnny wouldn't have been able to kill a human, because that would have meant a 15 or an 18 rating. The moment he ripped his face off, he was just a demon. They could use weirdly colored goo, and they could have him blow up. And he's not classed as a human, so they can get away with the rating. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, the signed photo.
It's his friendship from the games. Whenever you do a friendship in the game, it does it. So he ended his fight, even though Scorpion blew up. He got a friendship with it, so it's a nice man, Johnny Cage.
Oh, for anyone interested, if you see any writing on any of these banners, you'll never guess what that writing translates as. It's Mortal Kombat. They clearly like showing off the brand. Now, this is a challenging fight because you're in a wide open area. Everyone is on sand. I believe as well a lot of this is handheld, and you can tell because the camera's moving around a bit jankily. But I did want to ask you, so when you're in the ring, are you constantly thinking about like the crowd and sort of trying to respond to the crowd? Are you trying to make it look as authentic? Is that your primary goal, or is it more you're just thinking about like the sort of ballet dance with your partner, so to speak?
Basically, how I used to have it in my head was anything we're doing, we do to, depending where we were, because depending on venues would depend on where the crowd would sit. I worked in a community centre where the fans were literally on one side, so everything, we just needed to focus on doing moves out that way.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to do something sort of considered illegal, you keep facing the fans. Your opponent looks away to the back of the room so the fans can see you pull out a brass knuckle or something, or tuck something away. So they're in on what's happening, but the person behind isn't. If it's sort of three sides, the larger side of sort of fans watching, you work that way. If it was being filmed, we'd always work towards wherever the person with the camera was sat.
Yeah.
I mean, given the modern technology nowadays, everybody's got a camera, so you wouldn't exactly need to cater to everybody with a camera. If it's a fan filming, then they get what they get. You work the crowd, you work the fans as much as you can, but you focus on the largest group of fans because they will make the most noise. And the more noise they make, the more noise the sides will make.
They'll carry everyone else. Yeah.
But yeah, it was always fun to work and try and get... The way I did it was I would look for the kid that was cheering the loudest in a match. If I was being the face, the good guy, I would look for that kid who's like really into the match, and I'd like start like gesturing towards him to get him clapping, to get him cheering. Because if he starts clapping, his mum or dad will start clapping, his friends will start clapping, everybody around will start clapping, and then build up that noise, and then you make your big comeback.
Nice.
Or you single out a person, you shut up, you're bad, boo, I don't like you, I'm the bad guy, I'm going to come out there and I'm going to beat you, sort of thing.
I love it. So you're influencing the crowd, almost working from a single person, and then allowing that to sort of ripple through everyone else.
And also, if you're going to have a fight outside the ring, look for where there's a guy who doesn't want to be there. Like the person in the audience who's just there because the kids wanted to go, they don't want to watch this match. Go out and do something right in front of them that they see and go, oh, well, I know this is all meant to be fake, but that didn't look fake. And you can suck them in and you can get them into it and they will enjoy the match more. Because if they enjoy it more, they're more likely to bring the kids back. It's like, you know what, we had a good time. Let's do it.
I like as well that would also, it would put, I suppose, a bit of fear into them. Suddenly this physical match is right up close to them and they're a little bit worried.
The only time I broke that rule of look for the person who's not really interested in being there and do it outside the ring was if my girlfriend at the time was in the audience. And then I'd just say, we go in front of there and you do something to me in front of these seats.
Yep.
Because this is where my missus is sat. Do something and get in her face about the fact you've just beat up her boyfriend. Because that'll get the bad guy a lot of what's called heat.
Nice.
Yeah. Just to build up the tension for people. It's like, oh, that's his girlfriend and he's just said that to her. That guy's a dickie. So let's get him.
Absolutely. It's a shame that Sub-Zero doesn't last too long in this film. However, the guy who was playing in Francois Petit was involved with the production behind the scenes. He'd been involved in Mortal Kombat for a very long time. And although he was the most skilled martial artist on the film set, including, even beating the cast, the fact was that his commitments meant that Sub-Zero had to be written out quite early on. A shame, but there you go. Look at Goro, by the way, with his 4 armrests. He's resting his arms on the top, and he's got like 2 little extra ones on the bottom. It's like he needs his comforts. Now, I have to admit, when I was like planning this and writing out the script, I was like, oh look, it's an afternoon of bump training. Because this must have been the entire stunt cast just going, what are we going to do this afternoon? All of you, you're just going to run past the camera and land on the ground.
Just land on the floor. I mean, that makes wrestling a lot of the time. Your first few training sessions, if you go to train to be wrestling, you'll just be land on the floor and make sure you land safely, land this way, keep doing it so that when you fall backwards, your muscle memory just kicks in and it's the first thing you do is land correctly.
As somebody with a bad back, I can't underestimate how important it is to do that. It's I have to admit I get back twinges every time I see that scene. But anyway, sorry, you were saying about Francois.
Francois Petit, he worked for a long time as a physical trainer and a sort of therapist. And after Mankind's King of the Ring match against Undertaker in Hell in a Cell, which is, even if you're not a wrestling fan, chances are you'll have seen that because Mick Foley gets thrown off the top of the cell down onto the floor through a table. Francois Petit was working with the WWF at the time, and he was the sort of there. He was checking on Mick Foley, so you can actually see him out of his mask, helping check he's okay. And I realised I misspoke. The start of the film, that was Fear Factory. The Goro highlight reel, that was Napalm Death. I was wrong.
That's okay. Oh, trust me. Anyone who listens to these shows knows that Dee and I get stuff spectacularly wrong. In fact, it's almost a badge of honor for us. This must have been quite a hard fight, though, for them to work, because the animatronics of this thing were really impressive, but they also, as well, they were struggling against technical issues. When you get hit by one of those animatronic arms, it really does hurt. I always found it quite sad, though, that it was this poor red shirt, and he's one of the only people never to get a Mortal Kombat game appearance. The closest is, I think you can recreate him with the character creation kit, but that was it. I wish they'd do it. I wish they'd bring him back some way.
Yeah, just put him in somewhere. It was just there so you could have a big fight with Goro and show how hard Goro would be, because just showing the highlights of him, people hitting the floor but not seeing any of the fight, obviously to save having difficult shooting with the oversized puppet. It makes for, hey, this is an established character. He was pally with Johnny Cage at the docks, and now here he is, chum, being thrown into the water.
I do like the irony that Shang Tsung essentially is stealing the souls of a bunch of losers. He's powered by losers, not winners, losers. But again, it takes a hell of a lot for a guy in a movie like Carrie to utter lines and act in such a wonderfully charismatic way that it goes full circle, and he ends up getting invited back to the game decades later to recreate the character, and his lines in this film is how the lines are portrayed in the game nowadays. It's like he is iconic.
Yeah, well, he was the first and only choice for Shang Tsung for the movie. They knew they wanted him to be Shang Tsung, and they got him, and that was it. Like, right, we're happy. We've got who we want. He brings like a massively commanding presence to the movie that even though he doesn't speak, just seeing him on the screen, you know he is. There's something there.
He lurks and prowls, and
yeah. He preys upon Lou's brother at the start, but doesn't really waste any energy in the fight. He's not throwing punches that are being blocked. He's like, right, I'm going to punch you here. I'm going to punch you here. You're on the floor. Lift you up. Your soul is mine. Bye. That's you done. So it's kind of, there's a martial artist there because of how easily he defeated Lou's brother.
I always thought that some of these statues were either nods to other characters or nods to characters in history. This scene starts with someone in the background who looks very much like Taskmaster, and then you have like a lot of Jason and the Argonaut sort of vibes from some of the statues. But as you said as well, Billy, it's like these were all created. These were all real sculptures. They were all really there. The actors walk on the set. They're surrounded by what you assume is just the petrified fighters of 100 worlds, and it's so nice, and it's lit as well. There's this teal and yellow, just this look to it all. It just has this beautiful lighting. So I keep going on about lighting, but it's just one of those things that people take a film like this, and because maybe the subject is considered by them to be a little bit cheesy, they think that there's been no craft involved in the film. And yet there is, all across, from props to sets to the acting to what they're working with, and also the actors as well. The script was never finished when they got to film this, which is hardly surprising. It's part of the course in films nowadays. But the actors worked together to make the script a little bit tighter, a little bit better, and improved where they could. They're also even using lightning. I love a good lightning box. It's great on set.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nightmare for the gaffer, but
shaky.
It's great for everyone else, yeah.
But also, like you said, the colours they're using, the blues, it's cold, it's isolating. It shows that they are out of their depth, they're out of their element in this world. It's something they don't know. I mean, even this scene, it's all grey and dark apart from skin tone. It's, like I say, it's just because he's isolated fighting against Shang Tsung on his own. It's well crafted. It's so well crafted. And like you said, the fact every statue was made for the film, especially for it, and it cost a lot less than using CGI does now.
Yeah.
So
And
I think we
you
do
know
need to
as
go
well,
back to.
at the end of the filming as well, as par for the course on most films, not all but most, they then trash everything. So these things live for the lifetime of the film. If they're lucky, one or two of them ends up being either sold to a prop shop or just gets taken by a private collector. But most of the time, yeah, that's it. You see these things, they're gone, that's it. But that's part of the joy of filmmaking as well. And even scenes like this as well, taking advantage of the natural landscape. This is the director wringing every last penny out of this budget. And again, it was a modestly budgeted film. It wasn't a massive budget. I think it was about 20 million. And that was chunky in its day, but it was far from large. And as I said in my intro, this was made not long after Super Mario Brothers. For those folks as well who don't know, and it's almost been written out of society's collective memory, and with good reason. There is a live-action Super Mario Brothers far before the animated films that are doing well at the moment. But it starred Bob Hoskins, and it was an utter disaster from start to finish. It cost the studio a fortune, and at the time this film was made, computer game adaptations were simply not considered viable. They were considered a joke. And of course now, people can't get enough of them.
I went to see Super Mario at the cinema when it came out with my mum.
Oh my
My mum
God.
hated that film. My mum loved Super Mario. She completed Mario Land on the Game Boy before I did, and it was my Game Boy and my game. But she'd sit while I was at school before she went to work on a night playing it, and she's like, "Oh, I finished Mario. I managed to complete it." I'm like, "Oh, I haven't even finished it myself." So she was a Mario fan. Mario and Monty Mole and Dizzy, Monty Mole and
Oh
Dizzy on
God,
the ZX
yeah.
Spectrum. Those were her games, especially Magic Land Dizzy. But Super Mario Land and Magic Land Dizzy were my mum's games. But yeah, we went to see it, and when we were leaving, Mum was like, "I wish we hadn't gone to see that. That was nothing about Mario. That was nothing. They just had the names." And I'm like,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Billy's just happy because he got to see a movie with Mario in it.
Yeah, it is. It's the different expectations of adults and kids.
Yeah. But even to this day, if I watch a film, like watching this now, I am taken back mentally to that age. When I watch an old film, I watch it through the eyes I had at that age. I love that the nostalgic part of my brain works in overdrive when these sort of things come on. It's why I can sit and watch Biodome with Pauly Shaw and Stephen Baldwin and enjoy it still.
Okay,
Because that's not a good
sorry.
movie by any stretch of the imagination.
I have to jump in. D, if you're listening, we are not adding Biodome to our film list. I repeat, we are not. It'd just be too much.
Oh no, I admit that is not a good movie, but it's got a special place in my heart, and my brain just goes back to that age when I first saw it.
Well, again, this is a challenge, I think, because we'll wax lyrical about this film, but then when we ask other people to go, look, give this film a try, they're obviously coming to it fresh, and especially if they're younger, they're coming into it with a different mentality. A friend of mine recently, who I know very, very well, is probably listening to this as well, he watched Star Wars for the first time, and he'd never seen it before. And he was just completely nonplussed with it. And he admitted because it didn't have the pacing that he was used to. You know what? I should stop talking about my deep and meaningful thing. Let's talk about Goro being punched in the balls.
Well, it's the one move everybody did in Mortal Kombat that I knew and they loved. It's like, oh, if you do this button combination, he does the splits and punches him in the dick. It's great. And so people would just spam that when you'd go around to the house to play. Meanwhile, you're there trying to do fireball, like ice balls or throw spears to get them, and they're just doing the splits and trying to punch you in the nuts the whole time.
Let's face it, it is the biggest nod, because when they came to design Johnny Cage, they did use Van Damme. They used his Bloodsport costume as the basic, and Bloodsport features that crotch punch. So why not? It's a smart move. And adding things as well, like his little ad libs here about these were, what was it, $200 sunglasses, asshole. Those are the sort of ad libs that do actually sell the character. By the way, I've got to ask at this point, what are your thoughts about the new film? And do you think that Carl Urban is going to make a good Johnny Cage as this guy did?
I think he is. Like, everything I've seen Carl Urban in, he has been brilliant in and is committed to the role. From Dread, Doom. Like, Doom gets slated apart for everything apart from the first-person perspective scene.
Yep.
But I enjoyed Doom. A nice little throwback to the start of the movie, where he was making his film with this is where you fall down as well. But yeah, I've not seen Carl Urban phone in a performance or not sort of making a performance his own. He was amazing as Dredd. He had not a bit part, but a smaller part playing Eomer in The Lord of the Rings. But he gave into the role.
He sold it.
And yeah, I think he's going to be great.
Nice. The film, by the way, at this point does start to lurch around a little. Let's just say the story becomes very, very fluid. You don't know where the rest of the fighters kind of go. They were there when Goro was fighting, but it's clearly gone. But it doesn't matter. By this point, I think if you're on board with the movie at this point, it doesn't matter what they do now. You're in it for the long run. And I think that the director knew this as well, because the script from now on does get a little bit woolly, but who cares? You just want to see these people kick butt.
Yeah, the one issue I had with this film as a kid is there wasn't enough fighting in it. And the fights seemed quick. But as an adult, you learn why the fights are over quickly. Sort of Francois Petit needing to be behind the scenes more. So they had to make a quick fight between him and Liu Kang, although it is a good fight. The bow staff fight where I can't remember the guy's name, but he damaged his hand.
Yeah,
that should have been like an actual fist fight, martial arts fight, and I wanted to see more fighting. But obviously, you don't, as a kid, you don't think limitations of technology, limitations of time and budget. You just see a film on the screen and think that's what I'm wanting to watch.
It's also as well, it's the limitations as well of what they could get away with and still call it like a family-friendly film, because there's a hell of a lot of fighting for what should be. I mean, if it was a 15, they could get away with a lot more. And let's face it as well, when they come to Outworld, I'm sorry, there are excuse me, there are films, and you think Masters of the Universe, you think any kind of fish out of water story where you have another world, and you might have those people from other worlds coming to Earth and they have an adventure and then they go back home. But you never see the other world. You never see, in this case, Outworld. And yet here, on this modest budget, they have created this demon realm. And this looks so good. I mean, they've chosen the buildings. It looks fantastic.
You've got like the denizens running as one run past the screen. You've got the people running around.
Yeah, it's a world that's lived in. It's got shades actually of Escape from New York, where you walk through the rubble of New York. Now, Billy, you mentioned as well that you'll need to see extra fights. So obviously we had the extension to this the Scorpion and Johnny Cage fight. This is another one of the extra fights, which kind of comes out of nowhere, but it's good.
This is my favourite fight.
What is it about this particular fight? Because I know Robin Shue was all over this by this point. He'd like really been given free reign to do what he wanted.
Reptile in the game had a mystique about him because he was a secret character you had to unlock to fight. And the fact the reptile that's been following them around is invisible, and he throws him into the body, and this music as well, Control. It's such a good track. Once again, the arms are up, the hairs are up on my arms from it. Like the fact he's invisible and he sort of grabs him and throws him. He's literally fighting a hidden character, which Reptile was in the original game. And it was cool. In the original game, he had both Scorpion and Sub-Zero's moves and wore green.
Okay.
It's only later on that he got like his acid attacks, and when they brought him into a game as a fully fledged character, but also he's green and does both those moves because he's Scorpion and Sub-Zero, yellow and blue mixed together. Green. It's just little touches like that from the original game, and then obviously he gets his acid attacks because he's a reptile essentially.
Well, is
It's
it
just-
the case
and-
that he, as a character, he actually, you see him first as human, and then it's over like a decade of games, he sort of devolves into more of a genuine reptile. Is that the case?
Yeah, because he was just in the earlier games. He just looked as he does now. And then, as you say, he's devolved. But he always had Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. He had his acid spit.
Okay.
3, when he moved his mask to actually spit, he had a reptilian face. And whenever he's done his fatality, where he would eat like people's bodies, like eat the head, eat the torso, eat the legs, he would take his mask off and he'd have that reptilian head. So he was always there as a reptile, but you could only fight as human Scorpion apart from the finisher and the special moves. And then he sort of, as you say, he devolved.
And Mortal Kombat as well was known for being like a game where you had these hidden characters, you had these little secrets that, and was that part of the allure of sort of, it's the same with the finishing mechanic, which was just born of the fact that the guys who created this didn't like the dazed mechanic in Street Fighter, but they wanted to do something a bit more meaningful, so they put it at the end of the fight, and it was almost organically, they were like, well, if it's the end of the fight, we can do what we want. And that's when you ended up with these mystical button press codes that people remembered. And you go to the arcade with a list written down of finishing buttons, which is nuts. Oh, lovely.
Whole block, a quarter circle around, sort of forward, down, back, up, forward, and then high punch, and Liu Kang would uppercut the heads off. That was Liu Kang's finisher. He'd do a cartwheel into them and then uppercut them.
This is how it sticks with you.
Yeah.
Oh, a few fun facts before we leave this. And the background of this scene, there was literally a button code in this scene, and if people used it, I believe it either unlocked a secret character or unlocked a special move. And also, Billy, you mentioned "Control" as a song that you liked. Do you know who made that song?
It was, I do know, because it's still in playlists now and it's totally gone from my brain. I'll blame MS.
Okay, it is infamous adult film actress Tracy Lords.
Tracy Lords.
And please,
Tracy Lords,
folks, please, folks, I beg you, do not type in Tracy Lords into Google. Even now, please don't do that. You'll get in so much trouble. But yeah, I mean, she was infamous, let's just say, as a porn star. So maybe not. Look at that wall behind them, though.
I mean, yeah, that like, as I said earlier, this is all real. It was all actually there.
They've lit hundreds and hundreds of meters of that wall as well. That is a huge lighting challenge. And look at this movement. This is a crane. I'm pretty sure because they start high and they just move around.
Yeah, it's high
and they're walking around these
hands down and along.
beautiful statues and just this idea of a society in ruin.
Like, this CGI looks a bit rough now. But when they first showed it and the camera went along, I mean, it was. And even that, like, on old televisions, you could not tell that she wasn't just chained against those pillars.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, well, obviously, because it was low definition and it was all grainy. So it wasn't massively, like, going up, it looked a bit strange. But the establishing shot at the start where it goes from Liu Kang and Johnny Cage up to the skull on the building, like, that looked amazing then. It still kind of looks good. It's a little bit of a sheen over it that shows that it's CGI, but it still kind of looks good. But the sort of corkscrew up the tower, like, to show the old Mortal Kombat style, climb the tower to fight the boss, and the boss is at the top of the tower. It's a nice tie-in, but that was very clearly sort of old CGI.
Meanwhile, Sonya has her very much a
Bridget
haircut
Bardot
of its
costume
time.
on.
Yes. Sorry, the nerdiest thing that I'm going to say on this entire track is the staircase that they walk down. At one point, it isn't supported, and in fact, you can see in the background there, a lot of the staircase isn't supported. It's a really nice design touch. It would have actually taken them a lot to build that as well. And this set in particular, I know they use a lot of it, but it is absolutely exquisite, all the way down to the logo on the floor. I mean, they clearly branded their own fighting tournament, but it looks so good. And yeah, it's Sonya is looking very much of her time. It's almost like she could pick up a laser pistol and you totally believe that she was either a female barbarian or a female barbarian in space. Meanwhile, the entourage look as though they were introducing the Undertaker, which is kind of weird.
The druids.
The druids. Either dark magic or druids. I've not really mentioned much about the princess, but in terms of this film, she's one of the few people, even though I think it was Talia, she was the one, along with Carrie, who'd actually had a lot of major film experience. They both appeared in a James Bond film, which was a bit weird. But by the way, did you know what Carrie's first listed film was?
I don't know.
He was an unseen extra. Nobody's ever been able to get a screenshot of him, but he was one of the goons in Big Trouble in Little China.
Really?
And that is so cool, considering the connection to Raiden. That's so cool.
Yeah. That's a really nice touch. Obviously, in the big sort of crowd fights, in that right at the start and right at the end, there's that much going on. It's going to be hard to spot one person among them when it's not going to be that clear, even now with Blu-ray definition sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or the Ultra 4K even.
I'd imagine that this was a large part of the production crew who are roped in. Look, Bob, I know you finished putting up that light. Can you just put on a cloak and hood and walk around with the rest of the monks?
Yeah.
Try not to nod your head too much or do anything distinctive. Oh, look at that set.
That's beautiful. And you get the music coming in with the extended intro from the Utah Saints song. And oh my God, it's my catchphrase for this recording apparently, but the hairs are up. And I watched this 2 days ago just to get it kind of fresh in my mind again. And also, it's Mortal Kombat. I was the same then. It's just, and I know it's going to happen again coming up soon. So, with another song.
It's also as well, these guys are, this is where you see the skill and the expertise of both actors. They're working extremely well together. There's obviously, as you said before as well, when you're working with another person, especially on a fight, there has to be a lot of trust. You have to work well with people. Yeah. And these guys sell every move just as much as they can.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's one of the reasons I know I can't go back to wrestling. It's not my health I'm worried about. It's you're responsible for the safety of your opponent as well as yourself, and they're responsible for your safety as well as their own. So because my muscle control isn't what it was thanks to having a rubbish immune system that thinks my own body is an invading force, I don't want to go into a ring and not be able to lift somebody properly and end up hurting them. My two things working with me when I was wrestling, I was very snug with my punches and sort of forearms, and I was also very safe. I could jump off the top rope, drop a leg across your neck, and you would not feel a thing. I could land my body across you, like jump and drop my back onto you, and you wouldn't feel a thing apart from a glancing sort of touch. Because I was just, you look after your opponent.
Yeah. I do feel it's a little unfair. Some of them have just got their fists, and then other other people here have got big honking swords and full armor.
Yeah.
And you just think it's a little bit unbalanced. He doesn't care, but it's nice that even in this sort of environment, they still do the rule of no, we're a group of people. We'll take him one person at a time.
Yep, one by one.
It's nice that they do get to showcase a few different styles of fighting. It's not massively done, but it's still enough. Oof. Again, Robin Shu, he came on board. He had done fight choreography. He'd actually met as well the guy who did the original motion capture for his character in the game. He bumped into him before the guy did the game, and he even asked him. He had a chat. He said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm doing some digitization for a game." And Robin went, "Oh, that's silly. I'm not going to do that." And then a couple of years later, he's literally playing him in the film, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to see the trailer for this film?
I will have many moons ago when it was first released. Because it was a 15 when it was released over here.
Ah,
So,
okay. I was going to ask,
because
yeah.
I looked older than I was. I could get into 12s at this point, despite being sort of 10-year-old. But I wasn't quite enough to get into 15s. But when I was 15, I could get into 18s, so it kind of balanced out. It was fine.
Yeah. Because I know the director was deeply worried about how this would go down. I mean, he's extremely nervous anyway because it's a risky film. But he went to a regular film that he knew would be showing a trailer for Mortal Kombat, and there were fans of the game in front of him. And when the trailer came up, they were literally doing an audible checklist of all the characters as they appeared in the trailer. And to them, it didn't matter about the content. It didn't matter what they were doing. It was just that they were there. Sub-Zero, check. Johnny Cage, check. Sonya, check. Reptile, oh great, check. It was like as long as you featured them in some way, shape, or form, that was good enough for them. And I think that's when the director at least knew that he had something good on his hands. He was like, yeah, the fans are going to appreciate this.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. A lot of people, well, a lot of sort of creators, when it comes to movies, don't realize that. People just want to see the characters in the correct situation making the same decisions the game characters would.
Yeah.
And not just sort of this character, like Resident Evil 3 is a prime example of it. The girl who plays Jill Valentine in it, it's basically somebody cosplaying Jill Valentine turned up to shoot and didn't make any character decisions. The movie Resident Evil 3, sorry, not the game.
Okay.
It's just, but then the Resident Evil movies are just Milla Jovovich getting her friends round to play Resident Evil while her husband directs and shoots them a lot of the time.
Well, this actually had a really... Sorry, go on.
You want the characters to be the characters. A lot of people say, oh, if they made the movie exactly like the game, the people would complain it's just exactly like the game. But then you'd still be able to go, well, yeah, they're making a movie of this game. Of course they did. I wouldn't mind seeing, for example, let's say they took a gamble again and remade a Double Dragon movie.
Yeah.
To go against the Mark Dacascos one that came out in the 90s. And they just made it a straight one-to-one copy of the original game, just with additional dialogue and events in it. It'd be fine. Because I'd go to see it because I want to see Double Dragon. But if they made it Double Dragon and added a racing section where they've got to get from one side of a track to another to save somebody, it'd be like, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, or they added like a huge over-the-top romantic scene for no reason between characters just because they were there. It doesn't appeal to anyone else. The people going to see this film are the people going to see this film. You might as well make them happy, and then they'll tell their friends and go, look, this really works. You should go and see it, and then more people will see it. If you compromise, then they won't like it. They'll tell their friends I didn't like it, and you won't get any extra box office. It will still fail. And look, this film, ladies and gentlemen, like made 120 million off a 20 million budget. That is a big, hefty payday. And then if you want to see how people then fail to make a sequel, this series is almost the benchmark for that as well. It's like a studio somehow manages to luck out and creates a wonderful film, and then manages to make one of the worst sequels of all time.
Yeah,
He died. I'm sorry, sir. It was not a flawless victory.
You're thinking of fatality. That's what you meant. It's an F word. It's from the game. You can use fatality. It's okay, because Shang Tsung said it earlier, but it was not a flawless victory.
Let's be honest, though. People in the cinema, they would have cheered with that. The fans would have gone, yeah. And then 2 minutes later, they were like, yeah. Hang on, actually.
But it wasn't.
It's not the thing.
Oh, here it comes. Sorry, this song's amazing. Halcyon and On by Orbital.
Sorry, it's just the
hackers as well.
It's just the large men in the background pulling the most hilarious poses. They're just like, we're big muscly men and we're flying. But yeah, the soundtrack, they went and did this electronic dance music, which was it wasn't as massive or recognized half as much as it is nowadays. Like, people know that it is a thing, whether you like it or not, it's a thing. But they took some bold choices with this soundtrack, and it was really, really good. Look, there are the big men in the background. Yada.
Just going past in T-posing because they haven't animated them yet.
Ah, bless. One of the main media people to go and visit the guys when they were making this movie, because again, the press didn't have a huge amount of interest in this film, but it was Dominic Diamond, who went and visited them when he was doing Games Master in the UK. Yeah. And it shows you just how limited the exposure was for this film. It was like, who do we get? Dominic Diamond. Hooray!
No, it is a fun sort of set visit he does, because I watched it a couple of years ago because I was listening to a podcast that went through and reviewed each and every episode of Games Master.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, the visit in the Mortal Kombat set, I remember that. You know, when it kind of triggers a memory that's been buried somewhere deep under a load of rubble. I was like, I'm going to go back and watch that, because it's just funny to watch Dominic Diamond fail to chat up people on set, which he did in every movie set he did.
Naturally. This is where the filmmakers teased the hope of a sequel that never quite turned out the way they wanted.
It's a bit silly making a close like this. The Emperor appears and, you know, they're ready to fight him. And then they never followed it up. They didn't touch it ever again. Nothing happened. They didn't make a sequel. Don't say they did. It didn't happen. You're lying. I don't think it even exists.
It's true. And the shame is as well that was Megatron. That was Megatron doing the voice of the Emperor.
Yeah.
And it's like, it could have been so good.
I mean, if you want a menacing voice, you can't go wrong with Frank Welker, or a random cute animal as well.
Yes, I was going to say, is the voice of Megatron and Umi from Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, and I forgot about Slimer, yeah. Wow. Oh. No, so, okay, so when you saw this film as your younger self, were you happy? You know, what was its impact on you? Because of course nowadays we see it as our adult selves, and you know we can kind of place it in context. But at the time, was it a really big thing for you?
It was huge for me watching it. It was one of those films where, because I didn't get to see it in the cinema, I had to wait for home release.
Yeah,
on video, and a kid who I was friends with up the road bought it on video, so I went up to his, we sat and watched it, and then he gave me it to take home, and I watched it again when I got home. Nice. And then I rewound it, and I watched it again, and then I gave it back to him. But I was just I was enamored by it, and watching it, I thought it was amazing. As I say, when I was a kid, I wanted the fights to go on longer, but because I enjoyed Jackie Chan films as a kid, and I enjoyed Bruce Lee films as a kid, I wanted that sort of level of fight where there's a lot going on,
Yeah.
even in a one-on-one fight. But I did love it, and like the establishing shots they use for the fights in this, where you can see them and they'll clip to it also randomly throughout the fight, where you see them stood facing each other from sort of 20 feet away, so it looks like they're actually on a stage in the game. It's just like it captured my imagination, and now it reaches in and tickles the little nostalgia center of my brain and makes everything feel right. And there's more combat code stuff going up. There's a question mark showing there.
So I was going to say, yeah, they clearly, if you're going to have fun with this film, you're going to add in little extra bits wherever you can. And this is something that is, I think, lost with some modern films. And this is not just me moaning. It's like this, you're going to do a title sequence anyway. Why not add in a little joke or nod to the fans? Just something else, because it'll be something that they go, oh yeah, we got an extra code in the end credits, and they walk out feeling that they've gotten something extra. They've taken notice of it. And let's face it, it's one of the few times at this time in Hollywood where it would get people to stay in the cinema and watch all of the credits in the hope that there was a special code.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got my copy of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 from a Mega Drive sat behind me on my
Nice.
shelves. And yeah, like putting the codes in and getting what was called demo mode, where it would just run through every fatality, every brutality, every friendship, every animality. It would just run through everything that you could do at the end of the fights on them. It was absolutely brilliant. It's something that's missing kind of from gaming now. You don't get essentially push and win cheats.
Yeah. Is that because of the need for game companies to maybe I don't know, make it, because there's so much online, player versus player. They want to keep the competition fair, and if somebody there does have an advantage, that they'll only give it away if they can monetize it.
Yeah, but it's also kind of because they make a game now and they can go in and they can do, we need to work on level 3. We haven't finished level 2. Right, well, we've got level 3 being built here. Let's go through this. We're going through level 2 here. Right, we've built it now. Let's put them together and make sure they transition well. Back then, it was cheat modes came about for development as much as doing silly cheats for the people at home.
Yeah.
So, we need to playtest level 6 because I think there's an issue. Right, up, down, left, right, A, start. There we go, level select. Level 6, let's start it. So it was a way for them to get around and sort of get into the debug menus to check on things while they were working on it. And also now, games, rather than just a level, an ending screen, and at the start you maybe got an intro screen. Games are a narrative now. There's an actual story to work through. So they want you to see everything. They want you to do everything in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's one of those lost things because they want you to go through the game and play it fully to get the full immersion from it. It's why you don't really get level skips anymore, or for games that do have level skips, if you do it, it'll block getting an achievement on your Xbox on or trophy on your PlayStation or on Steam. So
is that how they kind of almost encourage you then to do everything? They go, look, there is a workaround for this small area, but you're not going to get the kudos, you're not going to get the badge, the title, the achievement, and so you feel like, oh, I've got to do this. And I suppose that's when you end up grinding for stuff.
Yeah, I think it was Grand Theft Auto 4. You put codes in on the in-game phone. Like you dialed a number and pushed send, and it would give you all the weapons. But it would pop up, achievements blocked. So you couldn't get any achievements because you'd put that code in on that playthrough. You'd have to start the playthrough again and go through it properly. if you wanted to get them, because achievement hunting was a thing back then in games, which has kind of died out now as well.
I noticed, by the way, a credit I'd not even thought about. So even in the first fight, you do at certain points hear a guitar cut in. It's almost over the top of the electronic sound. And I didn't realize that guitarist was Buckethead.
Yeah,
who
George
popped
Clinton
up.
and Buckethead.
Yeah. Wow.
Like this, when this song is playing where Goro's fighting Art, that's George Clinton and Buckethead.
Wow. God.
There's a lot of mystique around Buckethead, sort of when I first discovered him in the mid-90s. And then it just is an amazing guitarist, but it just seems to have fallen to the wayside. I don't think he's doing as much as he used to, but...
Well, he did.
Yeah,
He did.
like,
Let's face it. He had
guy...
that brief period of time with Guns N' Roses, and you could tell he was so talented, and he is so respected. But there's for certain people, it's like Patton as well from Faith No More. They're incredibly driven, they're incredibly talented, but they don't always fit into a specific mold. Oh, and I know this sounds like an odd thing to jump to, but it's something that we said earlier that I didn't follow up on. You know, when you mentioned about Resident Evil and the fact that Anderson keeps going back and directing all these movies with his wife in. Well, it was because he decided to do Event Horizon after this. He didn't do the sequel to this film. So because he didn't do the sequel, he took it quite personally that the quality of the sequels is so poor. And after that, he decided that if he was ever going to do a film in a series again, he would do every film because he wouldn't let the quality drop, which is weird because he then did every single Resident Evil film. And I suppose in his mind, he doesn't think the quality dropped. I mean, you know, you can make what you want of those films, but he has committed to doing each film because he wants to keep continuity of such. Oh God, yeah. Here's your Fear Factory, and there's a good music mix. Yeah, KMFDM.
The Duke Joint Jezebel, where Kano's fighting Sonya. That started a lifelong love of KMFDM for myself. Something that Grufflock and myself bonded over when we first met. Was talking about being a fan of them, and particularly Duke Joint Jezebel, the Giorgio Moroder remix from this movie. Play Mortal Kombat 3 at arcades everywhere. There you go, kids. Get yourself to an arcade. Mortal Kombat's in there now, according to this DVD.
And I'll tell you now as well that if you are anywhere in the Manchester area and you go to Affleck's, which is the big old sort of art creative, think of it as like a mini market over 3 or 4 floors. You know what it is. If you live in Manchester, you know. Yeah. If you got to the second floor,
Palace is absolutely glorious.
They do still have a Mortal Kombat 3 arcade machine in that building. I passed it only yesterday, amazing. And I was like, I might have to get some footage of that. Anyway, folks, we have got to the end of this screening. Billy, I hope you enjoyed it.
I loved it. Anytime I can watch Mortal Kombat and talk, I am absolutely chuffed.
Oh, fantastic. And listen, just one more time as well for folks. Can you just tell us where we can find you on the internet?
Yep, so you can find me on twitch.tv/ArcadiaWildBill for my live streams. Usually the only ones set in stone are Tuesday and Friday night from 8 p.m. UK time. But there's always afternoon streams from 1 till about 5 o'clock. But that's randomly on. But if you'd like to know when those are going on, if you go across to Instagram and follow Arcadia Gaming UK, the schedule gets posted on there, or you can find me on YouTube under ArcadiaWildBill as well.
Lovely. We will post all the links in the show notes. Thank you very much for joining me, mate. It has been lovely.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
Hey folks, if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We chat about new movies every fortnight. And if you're interested in hearing more from us, and if you like a bit of fantasy, 40k or tabletop gaming, the links to our parent channel, the Fluffenhammer podcast, are in the show notes.